But in the meantime, let's talk about Cal Kestis.
Yeah, let's. Man, I saw so many Cal Kestises at Star Wars Celebration. This is actually our first Donkey Kong since Celebration, too, which was a lot of fun. We were out there in London, and we saw a lot of Cal Kestises. So there's a lot of love out there, and it makes a lot of sense because he's a fantastic character.
He is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised. I thought it would be more prominent there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't quite as prominent as I thought it would be.
Other than them sponsoring, like, the whole thing.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
No, like there was screens with it everywhere, and it said Jedi Survivor a lot, but I was expecting a little bit more Cal Kestis-y things, I guess.
Sure.
Like I remember at Chicago, like Fallen Order I think was getting ready to come out, and like he was out on the floor, and I remember like, oh look, he's over here. But they did do a live thing.
They did.
And
we watched that.
We watched that, yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
We still don't know if there's more Poncho. But speaking of Poncho, let's jump into Jedi Fallen Order. Which, again, I played this a long time ago. I think I played it 3 times since, and then I watched you play it here this last couple weeks now. And yeah, I still don't get bored of it. I love, in terms of like gameplay. I want to talk about the gameplay and stuff, but I really want to get into the story and the character.
I think both are really good.
Yeah.
Cal is a new original Jedi for the game that I grew on fairly quickly.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
sure.
Like it wasn't like I was like, oh, okay, they're doing this kind of thing, whatever. I was like, oh, cool. I like this, and we're seeing the story and the trauma he's gone through and how he's been trying to survive and how he did survive Order 66 and a lot of interesting things. And it just a lot of times you don't get that with Jedi right away. You know?
Oh no, I really think that Braca is like the perfect opening level for him too, because it does a lot of things. The most important is he's literally living in the graveyard of the Clone Wars.
Yes.
Right? The Clone Wars happens, Order 66 happens, and then everything is just thrown in the trash, including Cal Kestis.
Yeah.
And he's been there ever since.
No, and it was cool when we were replaying through because we were seeing things like here's a bunch of clone trooper helmets, here's a bunch of battle droids all put aside. You're seeing like vehicles and aircraft and the Lucre Hawk being like crashing into the planet and stuff. And it's really cool to see like, the graveyard for the Clone Wars. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. But the game wastes no time. It introduces you to the character of Prof, and you think, oh, okay, this is going to be our side character. Sweet. I like him. And Abinetto, he seems cool. I like his voice. He obviously knows Cal is special in the beginning. Like the first time we see those two together, he like immediately says, oh, Cal can do that, thing that's going to give us double the rate, right, to the droid overworker or whatever, overseer. Like, he knows Cal's special somehow in that he can do these crazy maneuvers. He can, he's really good on his feet. He can, jump and all that stuff. But it's not until the moment that Cal saves him that he knows, oh, I've heard the story of these things called the Jedi. You're one of them. Sure. And then he immediately still tries to protect him, It's really cool. Like, one of the first things he says is, like, there's, like, huge bounties on you guys, And we know that he's hurting over the last couple years since the Clone Wars, going from an engineer to a scrapper, right?
Yeah. No, he was, and I don't know. You're right. I think it's interesting to have a character who can go from I'm going to learn the secret that can earn me a lot of money if I tell people, but it also I guess depends on how much love they have for the Empire, right, or how much they believe in the Empire. Yeah. Because we also saw like in Tales of the Jedi where someone's like a Jedi. Ooh, I'll get rich by turning in this Jedi, and they do that, and the Inquisitor comes and burns down their whole village.
Right?
Yeah.
I like, you will be rewarded.
Yeah. And he's like, but I did what you said. I'm loyal to the Empire. And, like, that's not the best way. So, honestly, him being that way just proved that he was not loyal to the Empire, didn't believe what the Empire did. Yeah. But was more willing to stay with his friend. Yeah. Who saved his life. So, I think it's a good comparison because you see that where it's like Ahsoka saved a life. But then someone turned her in. It wasn't the person who saved her life, though. Yeah. Those people usually are like, thank you so much. You are caring, as opposed to Empire and Inquisitors and all these other people. So yeah. But no, Prophet was a great character for the short time we had.
He was. I only got one complaint, and that's he's not named after a Beastie Boys song.
What would you name him?
I don't know. I'm not sure which one, but it's got to be.
Like,
actually, the developers of Jedi Fallen Order actually came out later and said, we had no idea. We would have done it if we knew.
Call him like Sab Otage?
Yeah, Sabotage.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what's a name you can do.
Sabotage. That's not too bad.
So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I guess you can have a complaint with that. There's only we only know of like 3 of them total, right? Like at least, especially like between movies, TV shows,
pretty much.
Maybe in
4,
comics
I think,
there's others,
but yeah.
So if there's others in comics and stuff, I don't know if they follow the same rules or not, but they might just not have names. You just see them in the background. You know?
Yeah. Anyway, so from Braca, we meet the second sister, who I think remains my favorite Inquisitor.
Out of all of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I think
even the Grand?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the Grand Inquisitor, but Grand Inquisitor is more of a symbol and a presence than he is like an actual character that's gone through stuff for me. I don't really know much about him other than his fear of Vader and his superiority over the others, you know? And I think that can be cool, and it can make definitely for a good antagonist, but Trilla, the second sister, is way more of a character. It's a little more like Reva from Obi-Wan for me, you know?
Which we lightly talked about a little bit yesterday, I think. But I think there's some comparisons that they're very similar between, like, Reva and Trilla, I think, and, like, the way they act or what they're after or even just trying to, like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to let you go so that I can get the bigger fish that I'm after. And, like, I'm sure a lot of Inquisitors do that kind of stuff, too, but we especially see it between those two.
It's extremely fun to watch the scene when Seer and Grease come in on the Mantis to save Cal during that first fight with the second sister. And when you watch it knowing that, okay, Seer has no idea that's Trilla, but Trilla knows that's Seer, and she has that moment, just like a small hesitation. It's like, Seer. And she goes from playing with her food to, I'm going to kill everybody on that ship. She jumps on it, tries to do Shatterpoint, you know?
Trying to pull the ship down and everything.
That's one of my... I always like when Star Wars can do that, whenever it can recontextualize after you know the secrets, right? Like, the first time you watch, 1977, you watch Ben Kenobi, and he's talking about the Clone War, and he's talking about Vader who betrayed and murdered your father.
Sure.
Like, that's a completely different feeling than when we watch it now, and we know, oh, I know the difference.
When you've seen the Clone Wars and what the Clone Wars were, and you've seen what the first 3 movies are, and you're like, now I have context of this.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's in a weird way, I feel like a lot of that still works with Ben Kenobi as far as like kind of like the way he's thinking about it and looking
100%.
at it. It's not like it's like, well, that's weird because what did Alec Guinness know about those? You know, just whatever.
He's just a classically trained actor where he's like, when you say lines like this, you're going to be thinking about something. What do I think about? I don't know. We'll make some shit up.
Just make it look like I'm thinking about something. So.
Yeah. Clone Wars. What's the Clone Wars?
So, no, I agree. It is fun to have that, and I'm hoping to have more of that too throughout just all the new Star Wars stuff that we're getting, right? Including new stuff leading into, which is gonna be a weird thing because we haven't gotten to really talk about Celebration except for the Celebration videos we did on the channel separately.
True.
But there's a lot of new stuff that's coming that they're working on,
and
I'm looking forward to that feeding into more sequel trilogy stuff too, and maybe even recontextualizing some of those moments and stuff too, like we've had with the original trilogy or with the Clone Wars, what they do to like Episode 3 and that kind of stuff, or like what Plagueis did with Episode 1. But
oh man, that one really does it.
Hopefully they kind of redo some of that kind of stuff too. But
we'll see. Maybe not.
Anyway.
To continue my love of Trilla and the second sister, like I really do think there's nothing about her I don't like. I think it's the best Inquisitor design. I think that's the best helmet.
What about her saber?
For being an Inquisitor saber, I think I won't say that I like her saber. I think that she is given choreography and moves better than any other Inquisitor.
Sure, I get what you mean. Like her fights that she has, like it looks good. Like
the
final
amazing.
fight that we did, like I have a lot of that ingrained in my head right now because we just did it.
Yes, you do.
And it was like we
so do I.
We spent so much time through the story mode.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll do Jedi Master for the last part.
Yep.
So like it was a little tough. Like let me readjust to this. But a lot of those fight moves and stuff, like they really do kind of flow in from one to another.
Very well.
And there's a few of those that like it looks like she's starting one move and then she takes off and does another move.
Yeah.
Which is. It gets intense.
But the actor that portrays her, like the voice, the presence she has when she has the helmet on, you don't know who she is. I feel like it's very Vader, but in terms like of intimidation, like the tone, up and till that point, that was, in my opinion, kind of the scariest an Inquisitor had been, especially because she had her own specific like that high string theme. As well, that just as soon as she came on the screen, it was just instant tension, which I think is pretty great too. But
I think she's better than the other Inquisitor in the game. Is it the 5th?
The 9th sister.
The 9th?
Yeah.
I knew it was an odd one. I'm like, shoot, which one is it?
Yeah.
5th brother. There's a 7th sister is in Rebels, I think, right?
Yeah.
But I think Trilla's better than the 9th sister.
I agree.
Like, there's not much there, so it's just kind of like another bad guy. it's possible.
My
maybe.
sister also appears in like comics and stuff too, so we don't have everything that we've ever gotten.
That's
from
true.
her.
Yeah. They kind of do that a little bit with, honestly, with Battle Scars. You kind of get a little bit of that kind of stuff too, where it's like, well, here's someone. It's like, well, we don't know a lot about them. He's like, yeah, but they were in another stuff. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
It has that feeling of like, okay, it's always cool when you can have characters crossover, but that's the reason the Ninth Sister kind of just like, there was an explosion and she left. And it's the same thing in the book. Like, there was an explosion and they left.
Sure. Like, we cut off her arm and pushed her out of a tree.
Yeah.
And then we never saw her again.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, well, maybe she'll show up again in the next game, or I don't know. I don't know where she is in comics or any of that kind of stuff too. With like, could she have died from somewhere other, some other Jedi or someone she was hunting or whatnot? So,
but I think that's why Trilla works so well. She has such a clear beginning, middle, and end to her character arc, and you experience it in a way that only a game can kind of tell you, which is over the course of like 10 hours. you know?
Yeah. I think a lot of what we get with Seer in Fallen Order, and leading into the book and stuff too, is interesting and is some things that I think Jedi would struggle with, especially in this dark time of the
times,
Jedi. You know, we've seen Obi-Wan where he is struggling with what he's gone through and what he's done, and where the Jedi Order is left now. Seer's kind of in a similar, I think, boat where she had her master who had, you know, this holocron and everything.
Cordova,
she has her Padawan who has been lost to the dark side and everything, and like her tapping in the dark side in one of those kind of moments with that one flashback scene that we see is something that, you know, I think a lot of Jedi would fear, but also I don't know that I can necessarily blame them in this moment that they're in. That it's the most susceptible time to kind of tap into that.
I would say so. She's a really good mirror to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and just how much we need to admire that when he says, like, it takes strength to resist the dark side, like, he's stunting on people. That's how strong I am, because it's easy to go to the dark side. Seer and Obi-Wan both have feelings of immense guilt in what they've done to their apprentices, right? They're kind of going through the same thing. They both cut themselves off from the Force, but Seer, I always feel like, has this feeling of like, if I wanted to, I could take it back, but it's going to be dark. Obi-Wan is afraid of it, doesn't want it, and then is kind of led back into it through, much like with Seer, right? Connecting with someone that needs help and being a mentor for somebody. The destiny of a Jedi Master. But yeah, I you know, I love the whole crew of the Mantis, but Seer is the one that I think that from like my first playthrough to now, I think I've changed the way I've kind of thought about her in a little bit. Especially because, you know, it's hard, I feel like, to shake that first initial gameplay thing where you're like, okay, wait, who is this? Wait, she's a Jedi? Wait, she's Trilla's master? Wait, she did what? Wait, she's, you know. And one of the only Jedi characters that's not Obi-Wan Kenobi that gave Vader a little bit of resistance.
Sure. Yeah.
You know? I mean, he was like, you know, you would make a great Inquisitor. Because he can sense she uses the dark side.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think comparing her with Obi-Wan and the things they're going through just works really well. I didn't have that when I first played.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have that kind of comparison. And looking at like the older movies too, the original trilogy, there's lots of things in there where it's like, oh, okay, so Luke is a Jedi. Oh, so his dad is Vader. Oh, so he has a twin sister.
Sure.
You know, there's a lot of things, and now it's just like, that's what it is.
That's what it is, and when you watch it, you're just like, yes, I know this, and I love it, you know?
So
but you're not really thinking about like how it's making you feel in the moment.
Sure.
When a character does something good, bad, aggressive, annoying, like how that can affect your enjoyment in the moment. And if you don't rewatch or replay like we have, like that can just stay with you.
Sure.
You know?
And also, like we were talking about, recontextualizing sometimes, seeing what Obi-Wan's gone through and how he reacted to everything in that. I mean, this is kind of a similar time, right? Obi-Wan's going through the same kind of stuff right now, right? What is this? This game kind of takes place 10 years, I think.
Yeah.
And then the next game's going to be like 15, I think,
15,
right?
Yeah.
So, like, we're going to be hitting around the Obi-Wan Kenobi time in the
would.
next game. So, this is all happening relatively close to each other, and it's interesting to see how it's affecting different Jedi and stuff, too. So, I really enjoyed Seer a lot.
Sure. I mean, maybe this kind of flows into later with, like, you know, where do you think Survivor could go? But you mentioned Master Cordova, who is Seer's master, right? He was a recluse, someone that kept to himself. That's the only reason that she knows about Bogano at all, is just because that was really the only person that he was close to, was his apprentice.
Yeah.
He says that he's meditating in the Zetho chamber, and he's granted a premonition. He's like, my work and my knowledge will be used by a Jedi, a Force user, later to, in a time of great darkness. Like, and you will save the galaxy. Like, that's his premonition, right? And he thinks, I imagine, like, it's about this Jedi holocron that he was able to smuggle away that has a list of Force-sensitive children, and only a Jedi or someone that can use the Force, the light side of the Force, can open it, right? But he also has that added thing of, like, also, I need to trust you, so I need to make sure that you can understand where I'm coming from, and my understanding is coming from this ancient
years of research
civilization
of these temples
on the Zepho.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting and really cool. The only thing I wanted to talk about, though, is, like, he's granted that premonition and stuff, but Cal and Seer both agree to reject using that list.
Sure. So
do you feel like I know always in future the motion, the always in motion the future is, and misguided or misinterpreted prophecies can be, all that type of thing.
Yeah.
But do you feel like that slightly undercuts what Cordova was trying to do?
So his prophecy is that his research and everything he's gone through will then push through to bring back a new order, right?
He said he was granted in the Zepho chamber a premonition of the dark times, and that there will be someone that's going to see all of this stuff that I am currently recording, and they will use it to save the galaxy.
Sure.
Right?
So, I mean, with that, you also have Cal, who ends up getting a premonition as well, right?
Yeah.
And he's seeing what we assume to be a future vision of, also, is it real or is it not? Like, it's one of those things in motion and everything. But it looks to be that if he uses this, he's going to start raising a Jedi Order, which will then be hunted down and killed by the Empire, the Purge Troopers, the Inquisitors, all that kind of stuff, right?
So do you think that Cordova misinterpreted his premonition?
I mean, it's only if you think that it means that this holocron and making the Jedi Order in that way is what it's meant to be.
I mean, that's what Cordova thought.
What his premonition could be leading to the new Jedi Order could be going as far as Luke or as far as Rey, where what they do and what Cal does and following in his footsteps and learning the same things could still possibly lead to a new Jedi Order, maybe.
Okay.
So I think you could, but it depends on how you want to interpret it, right?
Sure.
And which is the same issue we have with prophecies of the Chosen One or any of that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
I think there's ways that, yes, it could be wrong and he doesn't know what he's talking about, or you know what? He's misinterpreting it and it actually does work to lead him this way.
I like that. I mean, I truly believe, I think misinterpreting prophecies is the only way that prophecies in fiction are satisfying to me.
Sure. Like, he looked at it that way, right? So in his vision, his Padawan and Cal maybe have to come here, take this, and make a Jedi Order. When in reality, Cal, following in his footsteps, meeting BD-1, and going on the journeys that they're going on now, has him on an entirely different path than what he could have been had Cordova never done any of it, right?
Sure.
Which means that maybe influencing Cal is what he needed to do, and that's what his research and everything has done.
I think that's the answer that I arrived at, is that it's what here's what you think is actually happening, but what actually is happening is that Cal, who has during Order 66 and he sees Jaro, I really love that shot of Cal's about ready to get shot and whimpers just for a second, just enough to remind you that he's like
a kid,
10. And Jaro looks back and he's like, he has this moment of I'm gonna do something because I like this kid, not I'm gonna save the Jedi. It's like, no, that kid, he needs to be saved, which I think has a commentary on what happened with Trilla and Seer and all that stuff. Yes, but that pain and that wound, Cal talks about, it's broken his connection to the Force. Cal's one of the very, very, very few Jedi that are still around. And through Cordova's missions, messages, what he learns about the Zepho, what he remembers about Jaro, all those things help him repair that connection, right? Because he talks about this is towards the beginning of the game, but he's like, when I reach out to the Force and I try to meditate, that feeling, that moment of what happened with Order 66, it all comes back and I explode, I rage out, he doesn't come out and say it, but he touches the dark side when he does those things. He's a very aggressive character whenever he's like, I got to go into it's business mode,
Sure.
So I do kind of like that Cordova's message, his prophecy, something that can quote unquote save the galaxy is actually kind of about healing Cal and creating a full Jedi Knight who's knighted in this game.
Yeah, because how much more power and stuff does he connect with by doing this mission and doing what he thinks he's supposed to be doing?
Sure.
When he's given a vision of maybe what he should actually be leading into.
And I also really like it, too. I mean, obviously, it's a video game, and this works very well for progression of what your character is able to do. But for a reason to have a trained Jedi not know basic moves, I think it's pretty good, right? He has that broken connection, and then he has these visions of his training with Jaro, who kind of gives him permission to start using the Force more, right?
Yeah.
Because at first he's scared of it. You know, Cere is so scared of it that she just doesn't even use it anymore, right?
Yeah.
Cal still uses it, but he can only do slow, and he has like the instincts to reflect, you know, bolts, but he can't do the push. He can't do a lot of the stuff that we see him do later in the game. But I do like the idea that with the visions of Jaro, it's like Jaro's giving him permission to be like, hey, remember, you can do this for knowledge and defense.
Well, even leading him up into the Dathomir confrontations, right? When like he breaks his saber and when he like, when he just stands there, right? And Jaro like stops, and it's like testing him, and whether it's a vision he's having, it's the temple that's doing it. It's related to his like he has that what's it called? The psychosis thing, the
psychometry.
Psychometry, like. Having all that kind of stuff too, like I don't know exactly what does it, but all of that ends up helping Cal to like reach the potential that he needs to get to, you know. And I like having Jaro being even though he's gone, it's still his master helping him get to his full potential, which maybe he's reached or maybe he hasn't, you know. I don't know.
We are what they rise above, or what does the other say? We are what they move beyond, or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact line right now. Again, I have not been doing trivia. I haven't been watching as much as I used to, which is like at least a movie a day.
A movie a day. So no, I think the whole course that he's on and everything, I'm excited to see where we go with some of the story and the Survivor. Just because also Battlescar, like some of the things that we kind of have leading into and stuff.
Between Cordova's prophecy, a certain couple things that are mentioned in Battlescars, I have some theories for the game you're going to be playing tomorrow.
Yeah, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, me too.
Another character we haven't really talked about, though, was Grease.
Grease.
And I really like Grease. Yeah. I think that he's in a way, he's a little bit of a comedic factor for it.
Sure.
There's that scene when we were playing, and I didn't remember it, but he just, like, salts his food for, like, a very long time. And we're like, he's still going. I don't even remember what they were saying at that point. I'm just watching him like, when's he going to stop? Is it salt? Maybe it's sugar, you know? But just some funny things like that he says. And I love listening to the dialogue. Like, he has a history. It comes back to bite us a little bit in the game.
It comes up to bite us in a big way.
So, like, I like those connections to things that it's like, look, here's this character. He could just be the pilot, and that's all it is. But his history and where he's gone is also a part of this story and causes problems. And I like that they did that.
I mean, when you think about Cal, who has been stuck on Braca and doing nothing, Grease, who was a degenerate gambler and in debt, Cere, the tortured Jedi Master that loses her connection or gives up her connection to the Force, they're all just kind of like stunted with nowhere to go. And it's only in like connecting with each other do they go, how do I make myself useful? You know? I do kind of wish I got the inception of Grease and Cere's relationship a little bit more, you know?
Sure.
If I have two regrets, it's that we didn't get to know Grease as much as I wanted to, and I wish we maybe got Marin on the crew earlier so that we could have just a little bit more time with her too.
Sure. She's fairly late in the game and stuff too.
I mean, it's possible for you to, you know, go around and do some other, you know, change out some of those things.
You can travel around a whole bunch in the game, you know, but it's not like it's extra. It's trying to find those things, and it's not like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Where do I go? So it's more of like you hear those things when you are like, I mean, 100% the game.
Yeah.
And try to get all the extra secrets and everything.
But I mean, Grease has that important role in the ship, which is just like, should we do that?
Sure.
I know that you guys are these, you know, uber powerful monks that can go around, but like you're all dead, and I need to be the one that's like, he needs to be the one that when the mission goes wrong, he says, I told you so. Right?
Sure. No, I get you. Well, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this holocron's been safe in here for how long? So now we're going to go looking for it so that no one else can get it. It's like, but no one knows it's here.
Exactly.
You know, like if we leave it here, it's safe.
Yeah.
But
like
also,
Ganondorf can't get into the Sacred Realm unless Link collects the spiritual stones to open the Door of Time. So just don't open the door for time.
So when we're on Star Wars, it's Zelda we got to connect to. But when it's anything else, it's Star Wars.
I'll go.
I'm like, how do we get to this?
All right. You want me to go to the Bible? I'll do that.
No, you're good. Yeah, it's. I mean, we wouldn't have Cal learning and getting to the point he's at without the mission. But in the same sense, like, Greed's probably right, where it's like, just leave that there.
Yeah.
No one's gonna find it and get these kids probably. You know, no one even knows. Like, who knows about this planet? The only reason they get there is because they end up like following us, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't know. Grease has some points, and sometimes
he does.
Yeah, his "I told you so" is like he was right.
Yeah, no, and it's hard to separate him from like his character from the Mantis itself.
Sure,
right? That very unique ship, like a pleasure yacht. Obviously, he made a lot of money at some point, bought this thing, and then now he's in debt, and he's like, "All right, I'm taking my car before they can repo it."
Yeah, no, it's cool. I like the ship design.
I really do too.
I
think it's one of my favorites.
I love the rotating wing.
Yeah,
I think it's so cool, and also like it bends for landing and stuff too.
It
like
does.
The other side and everything.
My favorite thing is just the cockpit that like looks out above
the glass floor.
Yeah,
where you can look down.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. It's very Mon Cal, like Admiral Akbar, like with his seat going, like, what's going on down here?
And the way it is too, I don't get lost on it.
Yeah.
I would get lost on what was it called? Melon's gonna be Ebon Hawk.
The Ebon Hawk, yeah.
I would get lost in the Ebon Hawk sometimes.
Really?
Not like this is too big. I would just be like, all right, let me this way.
Really?
You know, because it was just a big circle.
Sure.
Like, well, I guess I'll just run around this way until I get to there.
Yeah.
But it's just a hallway.
Just a hallway, pretty much.
So I'm like, cockpit, planets, grass.
Yep.
You know, resting, lightsaber.
Exactly.
Like I just go in a straight line, whichever one I want.
Yeah.
So it was always like, go to the right, go to the left. But the Ebon Hawk, sometimes I'd be like, turn left. Oh, shoot, I wanted to turn right. So I go back to the right.
Yeah.
But I also like the design for the Ebon Hawk. It just is much more falcony.
It's classic Star Wars freighter.
Yeah, where the Mantis just feels a little bit more unique.
It does. It has like that
that
element of like an E-wing, kind of B-wing, I should say.
B-wing, yeah.
Yeah, the element of that B-wing. Yeah, that was pretty good. And I love the idea that you can customize the ship, the paint job.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you see it a ton, but you can.
Yeah.
Like BD and all the dang ponchos. Like, you can change a lot of that because you're seeing that all the time, but it's just fun to have the Mantis be like, I'm going to make it a little bit more unique. I'm going to make it look like a N1.
Like an N1. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We also have, I mean, I can't believe we've skipped over this character, BD1. BD1. I love that BD1 gets a Yoda introduction. And that,
introduction?
Yeah, like Sears says, like, there's someone that you need you to meet. And, you know, he immediately is like, oh, it must be a powerful Jedi. You know, just like Luke is there, like a great Jedi, ooh, great warrior, you know? Like, but you're not expecting. Actually, the one you're looking for is the person you've already found. It's classic Star Wars right there. So BD1 kind of gets that. But I think that he's a very unique droid. Like, a lot of droids have personalities, but he has that, like, if R2's like the loyal dog and Chopper is the cat, like, BD1's more of like a puppy dog.
Okay.
I feel like
he's not loyal yet?
No. He's definitely loyal, but he's, you know, he just feels young. He feels like you know, R2 has like a feeling of age.
So like R2 and it was like, oh, you know, open the blast doors or whatever, and R2's like, I'll get to it. Just wait a second. Whereas the puppy's like, I'll do it.
Yeah. But like
BD,
like, you know, the way that they vocalize him, like he it's almost like he's singing sometimes. He also like he has the ability to let you know that he's hurt.
Sure.
And look sad in that way, but also I just love him just grabbing onto you, like especially during that second sister fight.
Sure.
And you know that he's just like, ah, you know.
I did love I love whenever you would hack like a KX droid and he'd be like, yeah,
that's fantastic.
I just think that's so funny.
Yeah.
No, he's really cool. I mean, my biggest thing with BD1 was with his old master, Cordova. I'm like, there's a scene, which is a really nice scene, but from the Jedi perspective, I'm like, it seems like he's really attached to this droid, which always felt more Anakin rather than like any other Jedi.
Well, I think that's why Cordova is kind of like an isolationist.
Maybe.
You know, like I don't think that he finds enjoyment being around a lot of people, but it's history and then this droid that I think that he kind of creates this connection with.
Okay.
Right? And
I guess so.
And it might kind of be, I wouldn't call it inappropriate, but it might be kind of like a more personal connection with his Padawan that, you know, like allows us to even find Bogano in the first place.
Sure.
Because he kept that secret from everybody. It is not on any map.
I mean, that could be, and that could make sense, I suppose. Because, like, even think about, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi and how much, like, they're with R2, and he knows R2 through all the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I don't remember ever owning a droid. And I've always tried to think about that after watching, like, the older movies and Clone Wars and stuff. And I'm like, is he lying? Or is it just, like, he was so unattached that over the years, he's just forgotten about the droids from the Clone Wars, you know? Because, like, as a Jedi, maybe you would do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That's one of the few things about the transition from prequel to original trilogy that I haven't, like, made peace with.
Sure. It's like, why does he say that? Like, what's the reason? So, I don't know, maybe Obi-Wan Season 2 will tell us if they ever do that, you know? Like,
maybe, right?
Why doesn't he remember this droid? Or maybe he just doesn't care. I don't know. Like, would he remember Lola? He's going to remember people, you know, but not the droids. So,
yeah.
But with BD1, I do, in that same sense, I do really love the scene of, like, Cal has, like, lost hope. You know, he got to Ilum. He got his crystal. Yeah. It's broken in his hands. He's cold. He's freezing to death. And BD1 uses like a sound from Cordova to, like, you know, what is it? It's like, don't give up hope.
It's his goodbye.
Yeah. And then you see him saying goodbye, and it's luckily we had just had a scene talking about. I don't know. Luckily, maybe it actually was on purpose, and just because where we were going, they did that scene. But like BD1 doesn't remember the last time he said goodbye to his master. You know. But then having that moment there is like, that's really sweet. And in a way, it's like, this is the best time to be like, I've connected with Cal and care about him so much that I remember my core memory of this.
Yeah.
Because there was an encryption thing. Yeah, he talked about trust and stuff.
Yeah, he said he encrypted, and when you find somebody that you can really trust, then those memories will be unlocked.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works in terms of, like, programming a droid.
Sure.
Like, what do you mean connection?
Well, yeah, trust. How do you get trust from a droid and stuff, right?
What does a droid think about trust? I mean, we know, like, R2 knows.
Yeah.
But 3PO might every once be like, trust? What do you mean?
Yeah, right.
It's my program to listen to what you're saying, you know?
Yeah. So that I love the scene there. I don't know exactly how it works, but I love that as like another push. Like BD's there being like, it's like the sad puppy dog kind of thing where it's like,
what's what I'm saying?
Get up.
Yeah.
Get up. Why isn't he getting? And he lays there with you kind of thing because he's trying to get you up and you won't get up. It's one of those kind of moments.
Yeah, like, you know, he has that feel like, you know, around the time you actually meet him, like he gets hurt. And it has this, like, feeling of, like, limping, and you're like, oh, sure. I got to protect this thing, you know? But I don't know. Maybe you can say there's something about that specific type of droid that it plays to your empathy, so then it can create some type of connection that it can quantify. I'm not really sure.
Gotcha.
Or Cordova.
So it's like a con droid.
Maybe.
It's like, I'm going to limp so you feel bad for me, and now you're connected to me.
I mean, that's when, you know, when dogs were domesticated, that's the traits that that's what they do, you know? They want food and companionship and to not die, you know? And we built a relationship through thousands of years of living together and domestication and stuff like that. But the base programming's still there, you know? Like, they do it for food.
Sure.
We can read into how much they actually can process and love and care about, you know? There's stories of that definitely happening, and there's stories of that definitely not happening. But BD1 as a droid, I feel like is like designed to make you want to care for it. Whether that's like the game designers trying to get you to form a connection with a character, or in universe, it might make sense to make certain droids like you'll feel bad if you destroy them.
Sure. No, yeah, I get you there. So BD1 I thought was a fun character. I like BD1. I kind of hope that we get like I don't know. I like kind of acquiring more people for our ship because it felt fairly small in the beginning. But then we did acquire Marin, which was
moving to Marin,
which was an excellent like addition. I think like you said, we don't get a lot of time with her for her story afterwards.
Yeah.
We get to kind of meet her on Dathomir, which is really cool. Going to Dathomir, we haven't really talked much about planet stuff, whatever. But getting a chance to go to Dathomir and like travel through it and see like the Night Brothers and the last remaining Night Sister that's on the planet, and then have her summon zombies and stuff was like, oh gosh, this, especially with Clone Wars and stuff, it just feels so, I love it.
Yeah, it's very rewarding as a Clone Wars veteran to go to that planet. And even when she first shows up, at first you're like, holy crap, there's a Night Sister alive, and then she uses her green magic and like buffs up those two Night Brothers.
Yeah.
You're like, holy crap, she can do Savage times 2?
Yeah. It's great.
And you can see that she's holding the like what's remaining of that crystal ball that Talzin would use, you know? So that was a cool shock and a cool surprise. But I didn't know that I would end up really, really enjoying and liking that character.
Yeah,
you know,
to the point where like I would like to get more from this character at some point. So I've been looking forward to seeing more of her in the future, especially as like the last Night Sister and her. I love her being like, wait, you raised the bricks then for me to get across? Like, yeah. It's like, well, why didn't you help me? It's like, I want to see what you could do first. You know, like she's waiting there watching, and then she shows up to help. And then she's like, I'll join you. Yeah. Like, it wasn't like Cal said, hey, why don't you come with us? She's just like, I've been here. I haven't found the answers I'm looking for. Maybe I'll go with you and find the answers I'm looking for. Yeah. I'm like, all right, well, what's the Night Sister going to do with a Jedi? Which is cool.
Especially when Talon Malicos is revealed to be like, oh, he lied all about everything. Okay. Well, if he doesn't like the Jedi, maybe I do like the Jedi.
Sure, right? Like, this guy seems much nicer. If he is a Jedi and he said he was and he's been lying, might as well check it out and see what's going on. So it's cool to have Jedi and Night Sister working together. Like, the closest you get with that is like Ventress and like Obi-Wan. But even still, and I guess we had Quinlan in the recent book, which was cool, and I like that story too.
And a mention of him in the Obi-Wan series.
Quinlan, yeah.
With the Way, yeah.
Which, I mean, maybe that's something that you could have in the future. Like, where's Quinlan been? You know, maybe he could show up, but maybe not. You know, I don't know what to expect. I don't want to get too high hopes of like, oh man, we're gonna have this and this and this, and Ezra's gonna be there, you know, or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk about maybe like this is the last chance we have to kind of really speculate about what we think is going to happen in Survivor. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah. In that segment, but moving on. So we had Marin and Dathomir. Saw Gerrera on Kashyyyk.
Saw Gerrera was really cool. Yeah. The AT-AT sequence was a fun. Like, you're just swimming, and then you climb up those vines, like in Shadow of the Colossus or something. Yeah. But then to just control an AT-AT, I feel like, I'm trying to remember what games I've done that. Because most of the time, that's the enemy you have to destroy, right? How many times have you been on Hoth having to stop AT-ATs, you know?
I think it's just Battlefront.
Rogue One. What?
No, I'm sorry. In which you're controlling the AT-AT.
Yeah, in Battlefront, you get to control an AT-AT, yeah. That's true. But, like, there's so many times that Shadows of the Empire, Rogue Squadron... You know, like, they have those Hoth moments that you got to do. Yeah. And it's a very common thing. So controlling an AT-AT is always fun. You just feel like invincible for a little while.
Yeah. That whole segment has the feeling of, like, I don't know why, to me, it's like, that's like the first thing they worked on. Yeah. Because it's so big. It's so, like, grandiose. Yeah. Sometimes you do it's like, all right, yeah, we started with that, and then, okay, we got, 12 months left in, production. All right, so now we're on the next thing. And then sometimes you can kind of feel, all right, they got through that one real quick.
All right, let's go to Inquisitus. It's a hallway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I get you. It also was, I believe, shown early on with some stuff because I remember seeing the AT-AT with the Saw Gerrera stuff, and like, Saw's going to be in this. So. Yeah. But he also is not in it a ton. I like that he comes to Kashyyyk to try to free the Wookiees and hurt the Empire. But then once he does that, he pretty much like, all right, it's a lost cause. Let the Wookiees do what they want. We're leaving. Yeah. And he just kind of abandons them.
Actually, I have a question about that. Do you think, because, I mean, we know Saw. I love Saw. I'm always wary of Saw, and I think that he's really good. I think he's a great leader. The speech that he has when they free the Wookiees and, up on that tower or whatever, it's a really good speech, you know, and I believe in him. But when he is there, he says, we're on a mission. We're trying to disrupt the Imperial supply line. And he specifically targets a refinery that's refining sap. And he says, like, to Cal, it's like, oh, well, you're a Jedi. There's some Wookiee prisoners. Why don't you go do that, and we'll go do this. Do you have the feeling at all that he sees Cal there and almost kind of uses him as, like, okay, this will be a fantastic distraction? And maybe he doesn't care about the Wookiees that much. Sure. Maybe he's there to disrupt the sap production line.
I mean, it's possible. I think either way you get both with that, right? Like, he looks at who's there, take advantage of what they do. He's met Jedi before, so what's a Jedi going to do? They'll save people. Yeah. They might not help us kill everybody here, even though, like, you kill a lot of people in Fallen Order. Like, there's a lot of stormtroopers and stuff, and I have no problem grabbing a stormtrooper, stabbing them,
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't see their face and their eyes.
Well, I suppose, but there's also, like, I don't know. They started shooting at me first.
They did.
Maybe they should have not done that. You know?
Maybe don't be space Nazis.
Yeah. It's not like there were random Jedi kids that I tried to attack or anything. Yeah. Like, that would be bad.
You did. I was there.
Curiosity. But no. Could Saw have lied? I think Saw lies a lot.
It's certainly within his wheelhouse. I mean, I do feel like there's a bunch of times where he's like, you saved the Wookiees, and I feel like, yeah, he really cares. And he feels... when he talks about Tarful when you first meet him, I mean, it's with respect. He's like, Tarful, he is the resistance leader. Like,
Sure.
he strikes at the Empire from the Shadowlands, you know? Like, it feels like he does it with respect. But he says that he's there to disrupt the supply line, and then specifically they go to this one refinery, you know, that's creating the explosive out of sap or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just was something that I was trying to, like, maybe theory craft a little bit. It's like, I wonder if Saul just, like, I mean, we know that he does this. He is the epitome of when Rose Tico in The Last Jedi talks about, it's not about fighting what you hate, it's about saving what you love. For Saul, I think it's about fighting what you hate.
Sure.
He's already lost what he loves.
I mean, I think that disrupting that supply is, if you stop the Wookiees, that's also disrupting the supply. And if you do like what they did in Onderon, where you get the people there to fight or help reinforce the Wookiees with more Wookiees, maybe they will keep the lines disrupted or keep battling there and whatnot too. So in the long run, it helps them.
I wonder if it was easier for him to abandon the resistance there. I mean, he did leave some partisans, or at least some of the partisans stayed.
One of them felt like they stayed because they felt like they had to, but they could have gone with Saul. Yeah. Which was the one, I think, from Zepho that like, ran away.
Mari, I think, was her name. Something
Mari
like that.
Or Marianne or Marin. Yeah. Something like that.
But, I wonder if, well, I destroyed the refinery I was here for, so, yeah, things aren't working out. We got to go.
Yeah.
Which we'll have to get more into our anticipation for Jedi Survivor, because I think that could be a thread that we could pick up.
Sure.
Yeah.
But with that, like, Kashyyyk was a really cool planet to go to.
It was.
There's been times of going to different planets and stuff, and I'm always enjoying exploring different versions of it. Like, we've been to Kashyyyk in Force Unleashed before.
Yep.
I've been to Kashyyyk in KOTOR. I feel like I've been to Kashyyyk in Battlefront.
Yep.
At least one of them.
Battlefront,
I don't know which one, but
and we've been to Kashyyyk in the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yep.
What? That's important. The way those houses from the outside look are pretty close to some of the legends.
It's a lot of how KOTOR was. It was a lot like that too. So, but no, having Kashyyyk was really cool, and having the boss fight there was fun. I loved exploring it. It was like naturey but scary too. You know, giant spiders, weird slugs. But it was also really cool to have the giant bird thing moment, which had like a majesticness to it.
Absolutely. It had like what's outside the window. Like, it had that feeling of there's something bigger here. Like, the Empire can't touch it all. I mean, Cal has the best line, one of the best lines in the whole game, where it's like, look, there's so much the Empire hasn't touched.
Sure. When they're flying up high there.
Which I think, like, you need that moment because, you know, in this game, in the book that we read, like, the feeling of you can't beat the Empire. They will consume everything. We can try, but it's like, I can't imagine actually doing it. But Cal, up on that with that bird up there, can see the horizon. The Empire is not in sight. You know, I think it's a big moment for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in his belief that actually maybe we can do something, because the galaxy, as big as the Empire is, the galaxy is so much bigger.
Sure. Kashyyyk too, with all its wildlife and everything you'd have to do, like getting a foothold where they did for the refinery may have been a hard thing to do. So might be a lot that's not been touched that they'd have to really push into, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Some of the spiders are scary.
Well, yeah, but you know what else is scary? Like an army of Sasquatches.
Sure.
With crossbows.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And do Tarzan yells. That's scary.
They did do a Tarzan yell in episode 3. I remember that.
I don't think Raid makes anything for that. I can handle spiders.
Okay.
I'm just saying, the Empire, like, he struck from the Shadowlands. It's badass.
Yeah. No, it's a great line. Shadowlands didn't feel... In KOTOR, they made him feel like scarier.
Super scary in
KOTOR. I mean, I'm assuming the lower areas that we were in were still kind of Shadowlandsy, because it's like everything down on the floor of the forest.
Yeah, but it was also close to the life tree or whatever, the Great Deku Tree, so it's probably not as bad as it could be.
Maybe, yeah.
Further away from that.
Though, was it Kashyyyk or was it Dathomir that had those weird plants that chased you? I hated those.
The weird plants?
They were like the weird...
that was Dathomir, yeah.
Right? It was one of those two, right? And they would start like following
like
you.
a Zelda enemy, almost, right? Like kind of following
so, yeah. I think it's one of those.
Yeah, that was, I think, was it Kashyyyk maybe? No, yeah, you're right. It was Kashyyyk. There is one part where you're kind of in the Shadowlands and you're going over those like Venus flytraps and stuff. Yeah. That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
But I didn't get the feeling I did when I played KOTOR, but I was also a child
Sure.
that got scared.
Yeah.
Easier.
The big Rancor and Terrors was scary.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like,
true.
I'll stand at this doorway and shoot, run away.
Yeah.
And then we also had, and we mentioned it very briefly, but there's also the time that you've broken your lightsaber, and so you got to make a new lightsaber, and you got to get a crystal, so you go to
Only one place I know to go.
Yeah. And, like, I remember the first time playing that, like, that was just a reveal of, like, I get to go to Ilum.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh, what's this going to be like? I'm so excited.
Yeah. It's the reason, like, you know, we're currently in, like, a pre-release phase with Survivor. We're currently in a pre-release, 2 big games, like, you know, Tears of the Kingdom, where, like, whenever I do try to, like, search out or hear, like, what are people saying? Like, are they excited? And there's all this kind of, like, well, this game's going to suck. There's nothing in it, you know? Like, they're not showing anything. It's like, they shouldn't show it. They shouldn't show what's going to be there. Ilum, that moment with Ilum only works if I have no idea I'm going to Ilum.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like the further we go, like, as the years go by, the more people are just impatient and feel like, oh, it's going to suck because I don't know anything.
Yeah.
It's like, ignorance is bliss in fiction. You shouldn't know things.
Sure. No, it's, well, man, I should know more about a book so I can buy it and read it. And then it's like, well, now that you know everything about the book, you don't really have a point to read it because you already know what's going to happen. There's no surprises, no twists, no turns.
Yeah, but that moment of Ilum is fantastic, and it's only surpassed when you realize what they're telling you about Ilum.
Sure. Well, like, I love going in because it's the gathering, right? There's that whole element. You're solving these puzzles. You're getting through these walls, and you're just there to get your crystal.
Your crystal.
You just need to get your saber. And
well, you're there for the crystal to choose you.
Sure. Yeah. And then, going through all that, finally getting it, and then coming out into that doorway. I remember, like, looking at it, like, what in the world? And, like, and you're right. Like, we went back to Ilum at one point to get another viewpoint of it, and it looks so much like Starkiller Base, and it's like
undeniably Starkiller Base.
This is crazy.
Yeah, and
it just feeds in so much more too of how we talked about before, recontextualizing things. There was a Starkiller Base in the sequel trilogy. What is this stuff? Oh. Yeah. The Emperor must have been working on a Starkiller Base.
Palpatine initiated
long ago.
Yeah, it's not just a First Order thing.
Before Episode 4, 5, and 6, you know?
Yeah, you don't think that guy has plans on plans on plans?
Sure.
He gave the most powerful weapon ever created to a Grand Moff? No. He gave the only operational powerful weapon, but I got something working over here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
like, then, you can destroy planets. I can destroy entire star systems with
and that's also not counting, like, what we saw in the Battlefront game, right? With Cinder, Operation Cinder, which was like a terrible weapon that was maybe not necessarily destroying the planet, but like destroying things and making it uninhabitable
the
and
people
stuff, you know? Like, you're just destroying everything, and like now we've destroyed this, and you can't live here. You're gonna be dead or whatever because it was terrible.
Yeah.
So there's been several weapons just in the current canon. Not even looking at, like, I don't know, what was that big old moon crusher thing or whatever?
Sun Crusher.
Right? Yeah, that thing, right? I don't know where that came from. Probably was an Emperor Palpatine thing at some point.
But no,
that's a different weapon that, like, isn't in the canon.
Kip Durin was the pilot of the Sun Crusher.
Really?
Yeah, he was a Jedi at Luke's Jedi Academy.
The one who was like not great with the Force but good with animals.
That's Koran Horn. You're thinking.
Oh, is that
he was
Koran
not
Horn?
good at the Force, but he was good with mind tricks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Kip Durin was very strong with the Force.
Was he the one that could time walk?
That's Jason.
Dang.
Jason Solo.
All, right. All the Legends things blend together.
Yeah, there's a lot that blends together, but no, Kip, like, at the Jedi Academy on Yavin 4, which used to be a Sith temple, actually is like influenced and possessed by a spirit of an ancient Sith Lord. Ends up getting redeemed much later, yes, but also, you know, I know a lot of people love Legends, and I think a lot of people look at Legends with, like, rose-colored glasses, but there's some goofy stuff in Legends, like Kip, like, has a rainbow-colored lightsaber and stuff, and I remember being like, I don't know about that. Come on. But yeah, he had the Sun Crusher, and he could destroy a sun, which effectively destroys an entire system.
Yeah. But, like, there's another, like, ridiculous kind of weapon in the galaxy and stuff where it's like there's been several things. So I think
that's a theme.
Having Emperor making a Starkiller Base while he's also working on Death Star, and even after he also makes Death Star 2, you know, like, well, this one's still not done. That one we know how to make it. Yeah. Remake it. Make it bigger.
Sure.
So.
And I believe the Death Star 2 was being worked on, too, during the...
Beforehand?
Yeah, beforehand as well. Yeah. I don't know, because there's also, like I said, like in Legends, there's like there was a prototype Death Star as well. So we had Death Star 1, Death Star 2 in the movies, and then in Legends, technically Death Star 3, which was just the weapon system, but it was like this is where they were testing everything before they made this one. And that one got destroyed. They made this one, you know. So yeah, Legends has some goofy stuff sometimes. But I like that Ilum becomes Starkiller Base because it's a huge, giant, in-your-face metaphor for what Palpatine did to the Jedi, right? He turned everything on its head. He takes where Jedi would get lightsabers and kyber crystals and turns it into something that can take energy from a sun and use it to fire weapons. So not only are you taking energy from a system, then you're also destroying different systems, right? But I think it only works because it's a planet that produces kyber.
Sure.
That's the only way you can deal with it. Like, Starkiller Base is effectively a giant lightsaber.
Yeah. You take the Death Star, and it's using kyber crystals as well to destroy planets, right?
Yeah. But it's artificial, whereas, I mean, Starkiller is also artificial, but it's more like a parasite on the planet versus an artificial moon that the Death Star was.
And then you have Palpatine being like, I'm going to take your chosen one and make him my apprentice, you know? So, like, there's lots of examples of him taking, like, here's what the Jedi think is good and what they want, and I'm going to use it against them.
Jedi come here as children to create weapons, swords that are used for knowledge and defense and to protect people, and I'm going to turn that holy place into the greatest weapon that's ever been done.
And in the grand scheme of it, if it fails or blows up, there's no more Ilum now, you know? Like, there's no place for you to do, and I've destroyed things that you have held dear.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to how, like, what aren't most Jedi temples built on top of Sith temples to try to negate that, right? You're trying to remove that history, and you're trying to, like, well, we'll get rid of that, and we'll make the good stuff here. And then he's doing the same thing. We're going to destroy this, and then you guys can't go back to it. Even if you do come back, you won't have this anymore.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's why
very
Imperial Palace is the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
Right? There's a Sith temple. We built the Jedi Temple in that, and then the Emperor of the Universe lives in it. It's such a screw you to the Jedi. Yeah.
But yeah, Ilum was a really cool place to go to, and I enjoyed the story that we had with that. And honestly, Fallen Order's story for the main part of everything, I think it was done really well, and I enjoyed it.
For a video game story, I would 100% agree.
And it was great to have a Star Wars video game story. Not like
single player.
Not like here's here's Battlefront, but there's going to be a 2-hour story we're going to make, or here's what was it? It wasn't called Rogue Squadron. I'm blanking on it, but the flight game that they came out with recently. Squadrons, just Squadrons. Yeah, that one also had a story in it, but it was mainly like here's the multiplayer aspect.
No,
it was cool to have just a story Star Wars game. We hadn't had one of those in so long.
We hadn't, and it was especially when it came to EA. Like EA was going away from single-player story experiences and going more into multiplayer stuff, loot box stuff, ways that we can monetize, and ways when it came to that.
Well, how do you keep the game alive for a longer time rather than it being like, well, now it's done and we don't have any more.
And EA also had the, this 10-year exclusive Star Wars deal thing. So I feel like Fallen Order was kind of like, granted, it's not like I wanted to say Fallen Order, I feel like saved that type of game, especially with Star Wars, but it's not like EA made much else either, They kind of squandered their 10-year license, if you ask me.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been so many games that they've announced and canceled or postponed or whatever that, 1313 could have been really cool.
Sure.
But
I think was being done before the EA exclusive.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But I think it might have been canceled after.
It might have been.
They took it.
Sure.
I think is what happened. I forget.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. But yeah, I don't know. I hope that Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor makes it where it's like, look, hopefully these are done well. If they're successful, people enjoy them.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, we can make good story Star Wars games and do that.
Yeah.
And it's people will buy it and they're interested in that. We don't just need to have how do people keep playing the multiplayer and how do we get them to stay playing the same game or whatever.
And for me, it was my first, they call it like a Dark Souls-esque game, right? I had never played anything Dark Souls. I had played Jedi Survivor, and then years later, I played like 6 hours of Elden Ring and realized I'm not good at games.
They're usually definitely types of games where it's like you need to be on your feet and on your toes because there's usually tricks. You know, like in this game, when you walk in a corner, you walk through a door and in the corner is a guy who's just like, I got you, you know, and he hits you out of nowhere. You're like, oh, dang, I didn't.
And you got to
now I know
that.
he's there.
Now you know. Now you got to anticipate, which
I
think works for like you know, if you're trying to like, what's the canon of this game? It's like, well, the canon parts are the ones where I don't die.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that I've used the Force to anticipate this move.
Yeah.
Because I literally saw it and died. I think it's kind of a fun way to do it.
Sure. So like having that, learning the moves and trying to like, okay, how do I beat this boss? Like Trilla is the most, I think, Dark Souls-like boss in that game. Fighting the first Inquisitor, the Ninth Sister, I don't feel like, even my first time playing through, I had as much trouble as I did with Trilla. Trilla's just tough. It's a little bit more precise of things that you have to do, and a lot more patience sometimes that you need to do.
Yeah, in terms of like challenge, for me, there's 3 main challenges in the game. It's Dathomir, and then it's specifically Malicos, and then specifically Trilla's final fight.
Gotcha.
Like those are the things that I remember being like Dathomir just in general was a challenge.
Malicos, I think, is pretty tough too.
Yeah,
I don't remember how long it took me originally on him.
Yeah,
but yeah, that one's a tougher fight too. But no, they are very Souls-like, and it's not quite as hard, but it's similar. It's a little bit more forgiving than I think Souls is. But it's still similar, and it's a good like foot in the door if you want to like try those kinds of games. Like try this first, and then maybe move on to something else similar.
Yeah. Talon Malicos. We haven't really spoken in depth about him either. I don't know if this would be a controversial or like too much of a hot take, but I kind of wish Malicos was something else.
Like not a Jedi?
Yeah, because we already have like, okay, Jedi in this story that are, you know, influencing things after Order 66. We have Cal and Seer and Cordova and you know, that's already 3.
Sure.
You know, but even, you know, she's a survivor, but second sister. Yeah. Like you already got 4 there. Like I always kind of felt like he was a little more bolted on, that like he didn't necessarily need to be in this story. He was really just more of a vehicle for
Marin, I think.
For Marin, but for what Dathomir is kind of meant to be, right? Because we haven't talked really in depth about the Zepho and who they were, what they went through, and the ways they use the Force. But Cordova has this thing where he's like, interesting that the Zepho would be interesting in something as dark as Dathomir. But we know that the Zepho kind of went through something, and that ancient place is a place where terrible things can happen, right? Like that's where Cal gets the vision that destroys his lightsaber and Jaro, and it kind of like, you know, uses his memories and stuff against him. And Malicos is kind of like a personification of that, right? Like I feel like he's kind of like half a character.
So like because we don't know exactly what he was like when he first showed up.
No.
But like, is he corrupted while being on Dathomir kind of thing, and goes darker with also the Zepho being
all he says is that Order 66 happens, he escapes to Dathomir, and then he just kind of left there.
Yeah.
You know?
But like, what did he do while he's there, and what changed him? Because I feel like if he was a Jedi, or he wasn't like maybe he was more Krellish, you know? But like, he has that one shot, and there's just like a bunch of horns from these Zabraks.
Yeah.
You know, he's just dangling from
they
rope.
only respect strength.
Yeah,
right? Savages only respect strength. No, he has a line where he says, the darkness of this place, referring to the Zepho Temple, and Dathomir itself, I suppose. But I feel like more of the Zepho Temple, because that was definitely the dark side of the Zepho.
Sure.
He says the darkness of this place almost broke me, but I think that he's either ignorant or lying. No, it did break you.
Sure.
Like, you're broken. So it's hard. You know, the reason I like Trilla so much is that you can kind of answer. You can see where they were, what they were before, and you can, or you have a feeling of what they were before, and then what happened, Order 66, and what happened to them. Right? Malicos is just kind of, he just kind of shows up. He's like, you immediately think he's lying. He's like, oh, I'm just a traveler, you know, on this rock doing nothing.
Yeah, why are you here?
You know, oh, I'm studying ancient things. And then like you're like, well, who really are you? And he takes off he's like, I'm shirtless, you know.
I mean, I think he's great for a boss fight. I think he's really good for Marin in like her comparison of like, no, the Jedi. I've seen a Jedi.
Yeah.
And they're terrible people. I will take you out. I will do this. I'll do that.
I think I personally would have rather had, if you're not going to have Malicos, then have the Haxian Brood be a little bit more in the game, right? Because you just kind of have that. They come and they take you, and that guy's in the big hollow, and then there's just kind of like a weird cutscene where like Grease just kind of like leaves, you know. And I always felt that's kind of lackluster. I feel like Malicos wasn't lackluster. I maybe would have spent more time with Haxian Brood than I would have Malicos.
Maybe, sure.
But you do get to have him in the story as this foil and person that betrays and lies to Marin.
Yeah.
Who is like, actually, I should leave Dathomir. There's
I
nothing
think that's
here for me.
the biggest takeaway for him. Yeah. The trickiest thing is like, well, what do you, if you weren't going to use him, what do you use to still try to keep that same story to get her to be able to do that, you know? Because I feel like I like the idea, like she's here, she wants revenge. I love how she talks about this armored individual who came and killed all her people with these sabers, these weapons of the Jedi. So it was an armored Jedi, you know? That's what she looks like as being. But she was just a kid. She didn't know what Grievous was, I guess. But how do you still get Marin to do the same thing, to agree to go with this Jedi? Like you take someone and make them claim to be a Jedi and be very evil and be on the opposite side of what she wants, to where she's like doubting. He's like, you know what, maybe I will go with you. You seem to be much different than what he was like. So you got to have that foil for Cal.
Yeah, if you take that out, then you have to add something in. Like,
I just don't know what the answer is for that. You know?
Off the top of my head, the Night Sisters are destroyed, so the Night Brothers take over Dathomir and subjugate the women now, you know, or something.
Yeah, but there are no women.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, she would be, you know, when it comes to power structures and revolutions and when someone's on top versus when they're on top, like, generally, when a new power takes over, the previous power is subjugated, you know? So you could have that be a foil to Marin if you wanted to. But it's neither here nor there. I just wish I kind of felt, other than it being Liam McIntyre, who I absolutely adore. You know, he played Spartacus. He
Weather Wizard, right?
Weather Wizard in the CW. He's also a Star Wars veteran in that he, I guess that he played Pyre in Resistance after Malicos, but still, you know. So I really like the actor. I just personally wish that I was able to like have more of a connection to that character. Like I feel really connected to Trilla. I don't feel connected to Malicos at all.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the best way to fix that is to make that work as well. Unless you just either change him or add more time with him to give him some other backstory that you got to deal with.
Sure.
Like you do a quest for him, you know, to kind of enter
it, like,
he also, he's one of the few, I'm trying to remember all the times in this, but there are visions that the psychometry that Cal gets, and he gets something with Trilla when he touches the saber. He kind of, I think, gets some stuff with Seer, whether it's through like the guitar or through Trilla as well. You kind of see stuff with Seer and whatnot, and you get some history with them, but you don't get any of that with Malicos, which maybe could have helped with some of that if you could have seen where he did or what he did. Or
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head in that Cal interacting with Trilla changes him. Cal interacting with Seer changes him. I don't feel like Cal changes much between meeting Malicos and killing him.
With the exception of like Marin and him having a relationship, you know?
But that's more like Cal and Marin. There's nothing with Malicos there, you know? So I think it would have been, I don't know. It's the one part of the game, other than like being confused on like, oh man, I wonder what Cordova would think, you know, at the end of this game, where I'm like, I missed opportunity for me. You know, I've played it 3 times now, and every time I'm always like, I think he's cool, but I don't like. It's just that he's a Dark Jedi. Is why he's cool. You know.
No, I get you.
Like I care about everybody else. I don't really care about him.
I don't care about the Ninth Sister.
I care about. I do.
The Ninth Sister.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Ninth Sister.
Like, I feel like she's another one where it's like, I don't really have story. She's just a boss to be a boss. And I think in some games you get that kind of element.
Maybe
where it's
because
like,
she's so unconventional is why I like her so much.
Really?
She also, like, out of all the other Inquisitors, just feels like, you know, I guess I'll do it. I found a Jedi. You know, like, very kind of, like, lazy in the way that she moves and thinks. Like, she doesn't want to kill you for the glory of the Empire. She's like, I don't want you to waste my time, you know? So I don't really care about her, but I do enjoy her. Malicos, the only real enjoyment I get from it is, again, just an amazing actor, good casting.
I guess the thing that Cal could get from Malicos is that he can see where the Jedi can fall to. Like, you kind of get that a little bit with Seer, because it's like she touched the dark side, so she has cut herself off. But here's someone who has touched the dark side and not cut themselves off.
Sure.
They've gone further than what Seer did, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that, or the Inquisitors. Like, these are different bad paths we could have. You could cut yourself off trying to protect yourself. You could become an Inquisitor. You could just become a dark Jedi like this guy, or I don't know. I wouldn't call him a Sith, you know?
Sure.
But you have to be careful in the ways you do things, or else these are paths that you could take. So maybe it's not like it changes him, but it could give him a glimpse as to what could be.
Yeah. Sure. Maybe like even using him as kind of a, hey, this is why Jedi and Night Sisters can't work together.
Yes.
Right? You agree?
Yeah, why they can't work together.
Yeah.
I think that
and it can be kind of more of like a cautionary tale and make you be like, well, maybe Cal shouldn't get with Marin or bring him on the crew.
Yeah.
But,
like, could that taint him or whatnot?
Sure.
But I think it's a good route where I love how they work it with Marin. I like Marin joining the ship.
Yeah.
I mean, she saves you in the end too.
She does.
Which, I mean, it's not like she does a whole lot after you get her on the ship.
Yeah.
But she does do that, which is risking her neck enough to, like, if she'd have been there fighting or something like that, it'd been a little different. But I'm hoping to get more of that as we go into like Jedi Survivor and stuff, and get more Marin's story and whatnot. Yeah. So. And
I love that she effectively does the same spell that Talzin does on Asajj Ventress and the two assassins to go kill Dooku. She does it on the Mantis to get close to the fortress.
Like, cloak it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool too.
Is there anything else with Fallen Order? Should we kind of meld into some Battlescar stuff and just kind of keep trickling through everything as we go?
The last thing I wanted to say about Fallen Order is just I don't play a lot of games, you know. I might pick up like one or two new games a year, maybe. But it's pretty rare for me to play a new game 3 times.
Sure.
So I just thought it was a fantastic playing experience. I really enjoyed the combat. I really enjoyed the leveling. I personally love the look of Cal's silhouette with the poncho. Even getting away from our joke, I think it makes for a really cool look.
Sure.
For him.
I hate how plasticky a lot of the ponchos look.
Yeah, no, like if I'm trying to play like with a serious, like this is what it should be, I wouldn't use the pink poncho. I probably wouldn't use some of the other ones.
Like when you mention like Qui-Gon Jinn and stuff like that, like if you put them in some of those ponchos where they look, I mean, they look very raincoat-ish, I guess, like a lot more rubber, plasticky kind of look. I'm like, man, I really want more of that cloth, flowy look for them. You know?
I get you.
Not so much, and like I don't want it to like I kind of like when it has like that triangular bottom as opposed to just kind of being big.
Sure.
Because also sometimes when he's walking around in a cinematic, his arm's just kind of going through it and it looks weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang it, I'll just take it all off.
Hey, man, I mean, that game looks fantastic for being as old as it is.
Sure.
You know, maybe we won't have that poncho problem in the next one.
Well, if there's no ponchos, you won't have that problem.
Well, if it's not, I might not play.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 12.
Yes.